Chakravarty Art Project.
So welcome back. Today is finale, day 2 finale, and we have none other than the Green Humour, better known as Rohan Chakravarty. Rohan Chakravarty, better known as Green Humour. So he absolutely has been inspiring us from day one to care about the environment and wildlife through his art, and he's been instrumental in spreading awareness about a lot of things which we take for granted when it comes to dealing with nature. So, Rohan, I can't believe you're here with us today. This is such an honor.
Thanks a lot, Tapoon. I don't know why you're flattering me so much. We've known each other all the way from our Facebook Art Talks days, and I think we've
From art talks to gap talks.
right, we've professionally grown together. So it's a huge honor for me to have been by you as well, and to be here addressing my fellow artists. And I look forward to some great discussions.
Awesome, thank you. I'm so thankful that you said all those nice things about me. Oh my God. So we get started off right away, and we can just start off. How would you like to do this? Do you want to present your work, or do I start?
We'll just go through. I'm sure that not all the participants are familiar with my work, so I just want everybody to follow the discussion that will ensue. So I'll just present a brief showreel of my work, and then we can move on to the panel discussion.
Sure.
All right. So I will begin my slideshow now. Greetings, everyone. Greetings, Guwahati. This is an illustration of a bird very special to Guwahati, the greater adjutant, or the hargit.
Wow.
And this is a scene from my book Bird Business, which speaks about the different behaviors, the behaviors of Indian birds in 100 different illustrations. So I chose to start with a brief glimpse of something special from Guwahati itself. Just a disclaimer, I'm very uncomfortable with this new platform, Zoom, and I much like this hair. And if there are any glitches from my end, please overlook them. My work is a series of cartoons, comics, and illustrations on all things green, which includes wildlife conservation, nature conservation, sustainability, and conversations around conversation. So one of my mainstays is cartoons and comics, which I do mostly for the print media, but I've also begun expanding them into the web. I'll just leave you to read some of my work that appears next on the screen. As some of you might know, India is the only country where the lion and the tiger both are found in the wild. And we also have the highest number of wild cat species for any country in the world, which is 15.
Wow.
Elephant, again, is a very special animal to Assam and to India as well. Today is our Independence Day. A happy Independence Day to all our viewers.
Yes, to you too.
And the elephant is a national heritage animal. And despite that tag, it's facing a lot of trouble because of unplanned development throughout its range. What my work tries very hard to do is to take the discourse away from just the glamorous animals like tigers and elephants and focus our attention on animals that are not very well known, and yet our lives revolve around them, like frogs, because frogs are major pest controllers and controllers of animals that give us diseases like malaria and all kinds of waterborne and airborne diseases. So our lives revolve directly around frogs, and we tend to overlook that several times. What this ongoing pandemic has taught us is that nature is not to be taken for granted. One of the creatures that has been associated with research around the pandemic and its origins from day one has been the pangolin, and it has been proven that poaching and even the destruction of wild animals' habitats can cause big trouble and big unforeseen trouble to us in ways we cannot even imagine. A lot of my work is political. Whenever there is an intersection of political issues and conservation, I speak about environmental current affairs, what's happening in the country, and one of which has been the draft EaA recently, and a lot of issues in Assam like Baghjan, like Dehing Patkai.
Right.
This is a comic strip on the floods in Kaziranga and what all goes behind the scenes of managing this annual catastrophe.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my current publishers are the Universal Press Syndicate's Go Comics, Midday, Round Glass, which is an e-magazine. The Hindu publishes me every Sunday. Another edition of the Hindu called Blink. Save Us is a wildlife magazine, and a Turkish kids magazine that I work with also publishes me every 2 months. Other than all of this, I also do an alternative line of illustrations called wildlife caricatures. So I've been in the animation industry for 3 years, and animation is something I'm very passionate about. So this line of illustration tries to combine whatever I know about wildlife and whatever I know about animation design. And this is the result. It's a set of illustrations of all the 15 wildcats found in India. Similarly, some of the frogs that are endemic to the Western Ghats. I've taken this beyond just drawing beautiful animals. Some of my caricatures have served as campaign mascots for conservation campaigns, such as the Ground Hornbill campaign in South Africa, and Bhursing is the official mascot, the first official mascot for any tiger reserve in India, which is Kanha National Park. Kanha is, by the way, is home to the hard ground Barasingha, which is found only in that park and nowhere else in the world.
Wow.
Again, I've experimented with this kind of illustration a lot, and I've done habitat illustrations for several places in and outside of India. One of which is the Great Bear Rainforest in Canada. Beyond all of this, I also do a pet project that's very close to my heart, which is illustrated maps, in which I show what kind of habitat in a given geographical range is occupied by what kind of wildlife. This, for example, is the wildlife map of India, which gives you a brief idea of the different kinds of terrain and geography found in India and what kind of animals occupy these different habitats. All the
This
way
is amazing.
north to the blue whale in the Indian Ocean. I've done similar maps that have gone again beyond wildlife to include people, to include folklore, culture, even architecture, as you can see in this wildlife map of Bhutan. This was commissioned by WWF in Bhutan. And this is a map depicting the country parks of Hong Kong and what kind of wildlife you find there, along with some illustrations depicting local culture and heritage. And not just countries and cities, but also national parks and tiger reserve like Manas in Assam. This particular illustration was for the Wildlife Trust of India that works extensively throughout Assam. I've also illustrated a few books. Something to Chew On is a book on food history and the environmental aspects of food in India, published by Kalpavriksha. I've done some children's books on wildlife, published by Pratham. The Great Indian Nature Trail is my first comic book, which was published 2 years back by WWF India. And my latest release, Bird Business, which I've already told you about, has been published by BNHS last year. And all of these books are available on Amazon. Here are some places where, if you're interested in my work, you can follow me on the web. I have a website, greenhumour.com. I have a page on Go Comics, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I also sell merchandise through Redbubble. Something very disturbing has been happening in our country for the last few months, and Assam has, I mince no words, but our government has burned Baghjan twice over, and the media has been overlooking this. And it is the job of creative communicators like you and me to not let this country forget this injustice. As a member of the creative communication fraternity, which includes filmmaking, which includes photography, which includes all kinds of communication that we use to disseminate information around wildlife, I think the time for it to evolve has come. And I think it's a little late to be speaking just about how beautiful our country is, how rich it is in terms of biodiversity and heritage, and go beyond dissecting, go beyond just communicating that and dissecting social politics with conservation. My whole vision of being here on Guwahati Art Talks is to also seek collaboration with different kinds of designers and artists and see what we can do and build together, and take our means of communication and our means of art forward. So it's all about symbiosis between us, and I'd just like to end my slideshow with this particular cartoon. Thanks, everyone. And
Wow.
I'll open the panel for further discussion.
Thank you so much, Rohan. You have packed in so many things, and thank you for that wonderful illustration that you did for us in the beginning, like hi Guwahati and all that, and with the. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean,
Thank you.
yeah. I mean, I can see there's a barrage of a variety of styles in your drawings, and in the way you use different styles for different
Right.
yeah, like for books, so you have a different style. For comics, you have a different style. But before going into that, I just want to know who is Rohan Chakravarty, and how how did you what inspired you to start Green Humor? Did you grow up with nature, or what happened? Like, just please tell us.
Rohan Chakravarty, in one word, is a grumpy old man. He's nothing like the cartoons that I'm a very boring person in real life. So yeah, my journey began in a very straight fashion. Actually, I didn't know what if art would be a viable career option for me because I come from a very small town, Nagpur, bang in the center of India. And when I started out, it wasn't really looked at. Any art wasn't really looked at as a viable career option. So I really didn't know what to do in the beginning. I just happened to join the rat race. Medicine being a very, a flourishing career option in my city. I happened to take up dentistry as my
Dentistry.
yeah, that's right. I studied to be a dentist, and in the middle of the course, I realized that this is not for me, and I've made a terrible mistake. I'm not. Although I have a lot of respect for the noble profession of medicine, peeping into rotten mouths was not for me, and I had to complete the course because it's a very expensive course to get into. But after I got my degree, I never looked back at it. I was very passionate about animation, and that's what was my career, my next career. During the year of my internship as a dentist, I used that year to self-train myself in animation and learn the basics of how the industry works. And I got a job in Bangalore for the next 3 years, which I first joined as an animation designer and later became the animation director for the film studio. And over the course of these 3 years, I learned a lot about how not just animation works, but also a creative form of communication works. Everything. So I would say that the founding principles of both these art forms, animation art and cartooning, are very similar. And my stint in animation gave me the necessary knowledge to be a full-time cartoonist eventually. So yeah, that animation paved the way for cartooning for me. And since 2014, I have been a full-time cartoonist.
Wow, I mean, you have been through a dentistry and then through animation, and then now you're a cartoonist.
Meandering
And
journey.
yeah, and somebody just mentioned in the comments, like, there's something about dentists and turning into cartoonist, because we just had another speaker yesterday who went through the same journey. Even
Oh,
she
I see. Who's
started
that?
off as a dentist. Yeah, we had Nori.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, Nori art. Yeah, she's a wonderful artist. Yeah.
Wow.
So yes, amazing. So what inspired you to start Green Humor? Like, what what was the point where you thought, okay, I should make comics on environment and
So I have always been interested in wildlife, but my interest has been very dormant, and it got triggered into action after I joined uh, this campaign called Kids for Tigers, which had a wing in my hometown Nagpur, and I joined as a volunteer, and I wanted to know more about the wildlife in my city, and that volunteership program required me to take kids on nature trails and bird watching trails. So naturally, I had to make myself aware first. So all that reading up and all that teaching myself first, that kind of triggered my interest in wildlife. And when I started out, there wasn't much creative communication happening around conservation and the environment and nature. And I began to feel that certain lacuna exists in on that front. So I wanted to address it in in the way I knew best. And I was again always drawing cartoons, but never really knowing what to do with it, what larger to do with it. So that's when I decided to combine two things I'm most passionate about: cartooning and wildlife, and see where it goes.
awesome. So did you ever also think of using animation as the medium, like making films on
I
wildlife?
tried Kapoor, but I don't think I got far. The film studio I worked in wasn't really interested in that kind of work. And then animation, as you know, you're an animator and a very prolific animator at that, and you will
Thank
know
you.
that animation is largely dependent on teamwork, right? There are so
Correct,
many
correct.
elements that go into the making of an animation film, and functioning in a team is something I've admittedly sucked at from day. So, so I don't think I think I would say that's one of the reasons why I failed as an animator through my career, and yeah, I think that's one reason. Another reason is that I believe a little more strongly in a static medium of art rather than video, because I think that it gives my readers the time to think and form their own opinion rather than spoon feeding an opinion to them. So I think that I prefer the medium of cartooning more than animated cartoons.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. And you're right. You're right. A comic does, like when you watch an animated thing, it takes a little time, and you have to go through the beginning to the middle to the end. And when you watch a cartoon, when you watch a comic strip, it's there, all there in one image. So it makes for a quicker, yeah, it's very quick that way. So yeah, like I said, like I just mentioned, that you have a lot of style changes and all that.
Right.
In a sense, you have variety of styles. Could you talk about that a little, please?
Well, no two wild animals look alike, so why should I have a consistent style, right? No, 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 I'm kidding. That's not the reason. I've just had several influences throughout my career, and a lot of art has influenced me. A lot of different artists have influenced me. So, to be honest, my the very first cartoons I drew were back in school, and I began copying the work of Gendy Tartakovsky. He's somebody who's
Indeed.
the creator of Dexter's Lab,
Yes, yes.
and even he's even worked as an animator on Powerpuff Girls. So these were series that had a very strong influence on me as a child. And the earliest cartoons I drew in my school textbooks and notebooks were actually his characters adapted to my stories. So that's how my cartooning journey began. And
Oh,
his work, I've actually paid tribute to Getty's work in my book Bird Business, where a lot of the art style from Samurai Jack has been adapted and used in backgrounds, and even the style of his style of directing action sequences I've adapted to depict bird behavior. So yeah, a lot of the art that has influenced me in my journey is some way or the other finds its way into my comics or my illustrations.
awesome. There's already a comment saying omelette du fromage.
Du fromage.
Omelette du fromage. I love that episode, man.
Me
So
too.
okay, so what are you working on right now? Any interesting projects that you're working on right
A
now?
couple of projects, Dapun, are under non-disclosure agreement, so I won't be able to tell you about that. But
Sure.
some I can talk about are I'm doing two maps right now. One is an urban biodiversity map of my hometown, Nagpur, which has been commissioned by EaA.
Right.
They got on urban biodiversity. So there's this map coming up on Nagpur. Nagpur, very interestingly, is the tiger capital of the world, because the
In
number,
the world.
yeah, because the number of tiger reserves that is it has in a 100-kilometer radius is the highest for any city. So,
Wow.
so it's a very interesting map. Combines a lot of city heritage along with the wildlife you find both in and around the city. I also have another map coming up with the Sikkim Forest Department for a wildlife sanctuary called Phamboglu. And this
Okay.
map is interesting in a way that I'm adapting my art into another style, which is new to me, which is Thanka. Thanka is the Himalayan Buddhist art style, and I'm trying to create a hybrid between Thanka and my work to create a sort of cartoon Thanka, which will resonate better with readers in Sikkim. And it also combines certain elements of Sikkimese mythology with the wildlife that is found there.
That's amazing. I'm looking forward to the Thanka style.
Thanks.
Yeah, because I've seen a few artwork from Nepal and all that. There is just amazing.
Right.
Yeah, man. And
It's an art form that has really fascinated me. And during a field visit to Gangtok last year, I actually had the honor of spending some time at the Thangka Art School in Gangtok,
wow,
where I interacted with a lot of Thangka artists and even teachers, and learned some quick tips to incorporate some of the elements in my work.
Wow. So that's what my next question was about. That how well do you do your research? Like how, like even in your like the simplest of comics, there's so much of wealth of knowledge that you give out. Like I remember there was one comic where you spoke about seashells, and
Yeah.
that we just very innocently we just pick them up and, oh, I like this seashell, so I'll just keep them at home. But
Right.
it actually serves a purpose why it's there out there in nature. So yeah,
Right.
please talk about that.
So a lot of
The
things
research.
in my comics are things I have learned the hard way. Even I have picked up seashells to discover that they are occupied by crabs, and they are best left alone. So yeah, there is. I think there is no substitute for first-hand experiences and first-hand information gathering. So
Absolutely.
a lot of my research happens again. The maps that I draw take the most amount of research. They're extensive field visits where I actually go and study what the terrain looks like, what kind of animal occupies which kind of habitat in that given terrain, and how the terrain changes with seasons. So these are things that I'm after. How indigenous people living in and around those national parks and reserves interact with the environment and with the resources available. So these are things that I am always after, and even for the simplest of comics. For example, just to give you an example, I've done comics on bird courtship dances, right? And so I'm very fascinated with the way method actors work. Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and how they do the research for their roles. And even
Absolutely.
a terrible dancer, I actually enact the whole dance sequence before I draw it. I think research is a very exciting and a very thrilling part of my work.
Can we see the dance? Can we
Absolutely
see?
not. No, no, no.
Can we see the dance? Come on, come on,
Absolutely not. No,
guys in
no.
the comment section, please,
No,
please
no, no,
request him to
no,
show the dance.
no.
All right. Okay. Cool. So yes, yes, I mean, yeah. See, there's already somebody saying dance.
Sorry, you'll have to pay me for that.
So yeah, so what I was saying, like, it's such an amazing like way of working where you get to visit these places, and I think, like you said, the first hand experience is no substitute for it. That's absolutely true, because when you see it there, right there, on field, is where it's a different way of connecting with that whole environment over there, instead of just
Absolutely.
reading about it somewhere on the internet or whatever. So yeah, it's amazing, man. When are you taking me next to your field trip?
It's a very tough thing to get myself commissioned for travel, Tapun. So I don't know when I have the means to take an accomplice
Okay.
along.
So this is basically a process, is it? You go for field trips and then you.
Yes, yes, yes. Field trips are necessary for the maps. Otherwise, for comics, I don't think any editor will commission a trip before you submit your weekend comics. So that's something I have to take care of myself. I actually do a lot of travel whenever I can. Just
Okay.
for enhancing my own knowledge about wildlife.
There's a it's a really funny question. It's like, Rohan sir, have you ever kept count of how many cartoons you have made till date?
Oh wow! The last I counted, which was 3 years back, was around 600, 650. So I'm sure there are several more than that.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It must be like it's by heart ka khel bolte na. So you can do it in the
नहीं
snail
यार,
count. Is
बाप
that?
रे, नहीं, well, far from it. I get creative blocks every single day, man.
You do? You do?
Yes, absolutely.
So how do you get through that?
Oh, again, the process is very random. Of late, spending time with my pets has been really helpful. Just to take my mind off work, and and also because they're observing them is like the first step into wildlife. Even though they're dogs, they are at the end of the day wild, and just to observe them and be a part of their lives is a very good insight into animal instincts and ethology. So
Right.
so yeah, I think having dogs has really helped my work.
Oh
Uh,
yes, yes.
Other than that, just to have just to be a little more than a cartoonist is very helpful. To have random sources of inspiration like cinema, like animation, like literature, music, uh, etc.
Ritu Day wants to meet your dogs.
Oh, I'd be very happy to. So would they love new people, especially artists.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to then. So, what are your pet peeves then? when you talk about pets now? So what are your pet peeves?
Well, plagiarism is one.
Oh my God, that's a big one.
It's really rampant these days, and I think that I would really like to advise emerging artists to not copy and focus on developing individuality and their own voices. Um, Other than those pet peeves, loud noise. I can't function in noise and noisy environments, so I can't adapt to big cities very well. I really miss my hometown Nagpur, which is still calm and peaceful, at least in the corners. And
Compared to where you are right now.
I'm actually in Hyderabad right now. I
Okay,
was in Nagpur for several months during the lockdown. I just got back to Hyderabad.
awesome, awesome. So I'll just quickly go through the questions. There's one more
Sure.
question like, did these organizations approach you for projects, or did you approach them with your portfolio? Also, how do you handle the backlash you may face for being so vocal about politics? And how can I collaborate with you? My God, there are three questions.
Oh, okay. I'll take them one by one. So the first
Yeah.
question is about organizations. So the process of pitching goes both ways actually. Of course, initially when you're starting out, you have to pitch to organizations. You have to kind of demonstrate the ability to conceive projects, and I think that's the very difficult part for a cartoonist, because we often think that the cartoonist job is just to draw, but it goes far beyond that. It goes beyond just drawing and writing to actually conceiving projects and taking them through. And this is an ability that you need to demonstrate in your portfolio, and only then will organizations and publishers start believing in your work. So yeah, in my at least in my early days, a lot of the pitching happened from my end. I had to take my portfolio to various organizations, various publishers. Several newspapers have rejected me, several book publishers have rejected me, and this is something that of course everybody has to go through. uh,
Yeah.
Nowadays, now that my work is slightly better known in
You're so humble.
no, no. Uh, I do get organizations that approach me by themselves. But yes, I do actively pitch even now.
Okay, okay. But basically, it's like you have to go through the grind
Yes,
in the
absolutely. I don't
beginning.
think there's a shortcut unless you have a very rich father, which I do not.
Still doesn't work in the field of art.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Other questions.
iPhones and iPads do not make you artists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. People are like, I don't have an iPhone. अगर होता तो क्या
Right.
artist बन जाता मैं. ऐसा नहीं होता. Okay, yeah. So the criticism bit. How do you handle criticism?
Uh, I don't fare very well on that front. I mean, when I have drawn something political, and the ruling government and supporters of the ruling government have very fragile egos these days. So,
Tell me about it.
and they go after soft targets like artists instead of going after who they should go after. So yeah, I think artists are very soft targets today and very easy to harass. Social media polarization on social media is so easy to do these days. So yeah, I don't think I fare very well on that front. It's a very disturbing thing when trolling happens and when negative criticism happens. So I'm slowly learning to just shut myself off and spend less time on social media and invest more time in productivity rather than looking at what is bringing me down. So here's where I take inspiration from the rhino and try to develop a thick skin.
Yes, yes. Even there, you have a wildlife reference. Yeah. So now that we're talking about the government, let's go a step further and talk about the EiA on which you have done a lot
Yes,
of
sure.
comics too. Yeah.
So the EaA, as we know, is the Environment Impact Assessment Protocol, which but in itself has been very weak historically in India. It has always
Okay.
industry, it has always favored big corporations, and this is something that actually needed strengthening instead of adding clauses that further weaken the process. And the very reason why the EIA protocol was established was because of the Bhopal gas tragedy, and
Right. 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 Right.
that we are playing around with this law, with this act. To put it in very simple words, this is taking us back to 88, back to the gas tragedy. And I'm sure this is not something that a patriotic citizen of this country would want, right? And as you have already seen, uh, impacts of what a weak environment impact assessment can do very closely in Assam. There have been not one but two major oil related fires in Bagjan, and it has not just impacted wildlife; it has impacted wildlife in a very big way. By the way, Maguri Bheel, which is a bird watching hotspot, several tourists from all over the world come there every year, and you can imagine the kind of income, the kind of livelihood it generates for people living in and around that place, just because wildlife is at the crux of all of it. And Maguri Bheel has been destroyed, and not just Maguri, but even people from Bagjan have had to be evacuated. Some 850 families was the last count I read had to be evacuated from,
Oh my God.
and that is terrible. And if you can forgive the government for doing this, then I'm sorry, you are not a patriot.
You're not. In fact, you just encourage them to, just take everything, just do what they want again. And another thing, like, okay, the people they got relocated. What about the animals there? Like, who's going to worry about?
Oh, Maguri has perished. Now, all the animals
Exactly.
there
Exactly.
are endangered birds that depend on grasslands, which our environment ministry doesn't even know about. Okay, if you ask Javadekar to name these birds, he will say air, water, land, water, and
I've seen that video.
yeah. So that's not the point of this. I'm not here to make fun of the environment
No,
minister.
no, yeah.
I'm just telling you to be, telling readers and viewers here to be more environmentally proactive as citizens and try to, proactively communicate these issues through whatever art form you are invested in.
Yeah, it's also important to call a spade,
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, if it's wrong, it's wrong. Just, don't just be like, all, what do you call that, scared of the government and all that. I think you just voice up. And I think what you're doing is so amazing. And I really can't even imagine the amount of criticism and brickbats you must be facing. And, but
Well,
big props
to
to you,
tell you
man.
the truth, female artists have it a lot worse in this country. I'm really privileged being a male here, and I have it far easier. So, so yeah, I can't really complain. I mean, my female colleagues like Rachita, who'll be addressing
Yes,
a
yes,
panel tomorrow,
yes.
a lot worse, and I don't know how she handles it. So these people are inspiration for me to,
I'm sure, I'm sure, I'm
get more
sure.
work done.
I'm sure that's a very dangerous field to tread into. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So a few more questions we have. Oh, somebody wants to see your art gear.
My art.
Art gear, yeah, like your tablets and stuff like that.
Well, this everything begins with this.
Which version
And
is that?
oh, it's a Stedler color pencil, and this is a very important part of what I do, keeping a journal, because as a cartoonist, you never know which idea will strike you when and which idea can be converted into a comic or a cartoon later. So it's very important. It's a very important part of my life to just keep making notes, and these can be based on animals that I've actually seen. These can be based on an interesting film or an interesting video that I've come across on the internet, or any tidbit of information, or if I'm discussing something with a scientist or with a member of a conservation organization, which could later play an important role in my book. After all of this is done, then comes this, a very cheap model of pen tablet. I think it's the Wacom Draw. Yeah, this is what I use for most of my work. And a very expensive software called Adobe Photoshop, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with. It's very deep on our pockets, but yeah, this
Yes.
is all the work done for me as a cartoonist.
Yes. Well, yeah, I'm thankful that you showed that the Wacom product, because Wacom is also one of our sponsors.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's one of our partners. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So it's
Right
great that,
there.
Yeah. 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 Shantanu has joined us. Shantanu,
Hey,
can you please?
hi guys. I was a bit in the
Yeah.
shadows for
It
some
was
time.
amazing, man. Like Rohan,
Yeah,
amazing
Thanks,
it
man.
work.
was an like. Thank you for speaking out for this. But seriously,
Yeah.
uh, as an artist, like we have certain sort of limitation from even I, and we try our best to do what we can. But you have been solely taking the whole responsibility, and you're pushing forward. That is like kudos to you, man. More power to
Thank you,
you.
Shantanu. Means a lot.
Seriously,
Means a lot. Thank you.
Taking one
seriously.
for the team.
Really,
Yeah.
it's like immense respect
Immense
Honored.
for
Thank
it.
you, sir. Honored.
You also have a lot of questions like, oh yeah, Rituparna, they wants to know how risky is it to jump into the world of art from a different career path. I'm about to do that. I'm about to become a full-time illustrator.
Oh, all the best to you, Rituparna, and welcome to the club. It's tough. I wouldn't lie to you. It's a very tough journey, especially coming from a rather lucrative career, which was dentistry, and plunging straight into art. So I had my first day job was animation, and even though I enjoyed it a lot initially, it got very mundane later because my studio was taking assignments from corporate firms, from IT firms, and taking up advertising animation. It wasn't really where my heart was, but I still had to keep that job in order to finance and fund what I was passionate about, which was cartooning. And it took me 3-4 years to gain that kind of financial footing to ultimately take the risk of quitting my day job and becoming a full-time cartoonist. So, in your journey, you will have to make a lot of compromises, and to be very honest, the process of compromising still goes on for me. For example, merchandising is not a very environment-friendly way of making a living. But then in a country like ours, where options for artists are very limited, you have to rely on something like as popular as merchandising to make your ends meet. And this is something I fight a battle with myself on a daily basis, whether or not to create more merchandise. So you will have to make a lot of compromises in your journey, and of course, yeah, it's really tough to get publishers and clients to take you seriously in the beginning, and it is only the strength of your art, your content, and your consistency that will ensure a long run.
Rohan, you bring up a very interesting point when you said that you want to make merchandise, but you feel unethical about it because
Right.
environmentally. So I mean, this is something even I go through a lot because I
Right.
also am very conscious about the environment. But when I have to like go to a shop and just buy something that is wrapped up in plastic because you have no other
Yeah.
option, so I really don't know what to do. Like so I'm so conscious that I keep a steel bottle
Yeah.
instead of a
So do
plastic
I.
bottle. So yeah. So how does this affect you? Like, you're so environment conscious, but the world out there is still not.
Well, I think Dapan is more to do with governance and involving, corporates and the government in the discourse rather than blaming individual consumers, because that's what will ultimately create a larger difference. Of course, whatever we do as individuals does add up, but then uh, just individual action and not, any complicity from larger bodies is not the right way to go. So, of course, as artists, as an artist who draws about conservation and the environment, it bothers me about whether or not my means of living is environmentally sustainable. And to be very frank, merchandising is not, right. But I have to depend on it. It's a popular and up and coming source of income for artists. And if you are keeping yourself out of merchandising, it's more or less a blow to your career as a cartoonist. So that's not something I can afford to do right now. Of course, in the years to come, if I am established enough to not depend on merchandising, I will dispense it from my portfolio. But yeah, unfortunately, right now I have to depend on it. But what I can do as somebody who creates merchandise is to do my research. For example, I've recently tied up with a brand called Stitched in Bangalore that produces T-shirts and prints and ships my T-shirts. And all their T-shirts are sourced from producers who have an international certification for organic cotton. So I am sure that particular cotton is produced and marketed ethically, which gives me some kind of comfort to
Right.
market and sell my T-shirts.
Right. I mean, that's what I mean. To live a life that is completely sustainable,
Right.
and zero, what do you call that, zero waste life. I
Yes.
would love to do that, but I don't know when we can do that. And
Yeah, I mean,
It's a yeah. So
go ahead.
I think I think it's like it's more of a like a collective effort. Like if the policies go against the entire thing, then you will be cornered. Like obviously you will be cornered into giving in. That's how the whole unconscious consumerism works,
right.
because you're already cornered and you have no way out. Like you have to buy a plastic bottle. Like there's no alternative to it. And I really believe this is whole policy making thing that you were talking about, that the whole, it starts there itself. If there is no government cooperation, there's no policies who are actually supporting this, there's no way out. Like how long do you think it'll be feasible for us to be consciously living?
Right.
Like at one point you will break in, at one point you will give up, and it becomes harder. It becomes harder.
And it's just, I think, yeah, the one thing that I always believe is like we are a population of 1.3 billion, I believe. So I think like I was just talking to a friend the other day, and I said that if even one of us, if all of us, we just buy even one bottle, that's 1 billion bottles, plastic bottles, and people don't really understand the magnitude of the number. Like what is 1 billion? So I just gave her an example that, like if you just break it down into seconds. So 1 million seconds, right, is just 10 days. 1 billion seconds is 30 years. So that's the magnitude, right? So I think like that collective effort coming in is, I don't know, I find it very difficult, and I find it sometimes frankly hopeless also, like all this capitalism that has come in, so like how do we...
I think we are already wasted, like this whole generation that has been like there is sort of not conscious enough. Now everything lies on things like people who are actually growing up, who's going to be like successors to what we're doing. So I believe like children need to be much more made conscious, rather than trying to break the old bamboo, that is the old people, the policymakers who will never listen to you no matter what. I believe it's better for us to actually make the coming up generation who are coming up, them more conscious. And I believe like the way Rohan is doing, like, and the comics, the cartoons, and the art that is there, like it actually is very amusing to children, and it's very informative, and it's very, that's what I really love about his work. It connects to the inner child. Like that's why I really find it very like it's there, and it's very inspiring for an adult, and also for me it'll be an inspiration. For a child it will be an amusement, an amusing thing, and it'll be an informative thing. So I believe this is where the code lies. This is where the breaking point lies. This is how we actually move forward.
And I think this is how the child also will learn, like through your comics, something will seep into that child and it will stay. And like as he grows, it will keep playing.
It'll put that bug in them, as they grow up.
Yeah, I would. If I was a kid and if I was introduced to his work way before, then I would be obviously like in a different trajectory altogether.
I would never pick up she cells. Never.
I had a question based on what Dapun said, which I wanted to ask Rohan. Is Dapun said this thing, when you are trying to like make a change in your life, you're trying to make some positive changes into your behavior, and then you see like a lot of your efforts is really not making a bigger dent. And I wanted to ask Rohan, like, you have been doing this for so long, you've been making these comics for so long, but yet the environment is only like the conditions of the environment is only getting worse. Do you ever have these feelings of self-doubt and this sense of hopelessness? Like, what's the point of doing anything? Like, why am I even doing?
Every day.
So how do you motivate yourself to like carry on?
I'm by nature a pessimist, and like I said, a grumpy old man, but I have to look beyond that. I have to stay positive and keep myself optimistic about the fact that my work is making some small difference, if not a big one. And that small difference is quite tangible, is quite perceptible. The way you've just seen the whole EaA discourse, it has been led by artists, by creative communicators, because it's happened at a time when we cannot go out on the streets and protest because a pandemic is going on, and the government has taken advantage of this.
Exactly.
Has tried to pass a lot of new acts through Zoom calls, which do not guarantee or do not even allow indigenous people who do not have access to the internet, people from beyond a certain demographic, to participate in these discussions. And that has ensured a very easy pathway for the government to have their own way. And this is something that fortunately has not escaped the artist's radar. And we have been at it all the way since May, when the issue began. And today, we've managed to garner an opposition of 17 lakh strong. So I think this is
yes.
one of the strongest online movements that has happened in India.
And I think it's still going on. The last date to sign.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still in court.
September, I guess.
Yeah, it's still in court. I'm very doubtful and very pessimistic about what the government is are going to be. But even then we haven't really lost the battle. We've made our pressure felt, and we've driven the government on their back foot. And I think the environment ministry has realized that they cannot simply go on with blind plunder and expect that the public is going to ignore all of it.
Correct. And what will the government do? Slap us with a UAPA for making a cartoon?
I'm very scared that might just happen. Yeah, I mean, if the community stands strong and stands together, then there's no looking back.
Right. Okay, going back to the question, there's one interesting question by Riya Mohta. Does it get challenging to represent certain dark themed topics in a way that is easily understood comically?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Like, is it challenging to represent something dark, and in a very easy comical way? Something very like, I don't know, like how do I say it?
What?
Something very dark, or something like a dark humor,
Right.
like satire and stuff. Yeah.
So converting any kind of information into comics or humor is very difficult, and dark humor even more so. But I think dark humor has been my go-to as a consumer of entertainment and humorous information. I've always loved the art form and that form of satire. So some of my favorite movies have been have employed dark humor. One of which is The King of Comedy by Martin Scorsese. So I keep going back to dark humor for inspiration, and I don't think it's very I would say I'm not away from dark humor in my daily life. So I think it becomes a little easier for me to work around that.
So Green Humour likes dark humor.
Absolutely.
Is it? Somebody said your work revolves around satire. Somebody said in the comments. Okay, there's one. Okay, who are your favorite stand-ups by Ron?
Oh wow! Honestly, I don't watch a lot of stand-up comedy. It's a little too fast for me to catch up with. I do not spend a lot of time on the internet. But I think the last work of a stand-up comic I really enjoyed was Hannah Gadsby.
Okay. And who are your favorite sit-downs? Sorry, don't answer that. It's a very bad.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Wow.
That brings the humor in Green Humour.
Yeah.
That's where he draws the line.
Draws the line, yeah. Literally. So, copyright issue question by Priyanka Gogoi. How do you respond to people who use your art without credit or remove your logo?
I sue them.
I sue them.
No, seriously, I sue them. I'm in the process of suing 2 artists who have been copying me right now.
How does? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Dapu. Go on.
Yeah, I'm saying, how does that work? Like, is it effective, or like how seriously does the court take these matters?
Intellectual, right?
So, I don't think intellectual property is, especially for artists, is something that Indian courts understand very, very well, and it's a very difficult process to explain to even lawyers, actually. So I had a huge legal issue with a major publisher of comics in India. I cannot name them. I'm legally bound not to name them because the matter is sorted right now. But I've had to sue a major publisher of comics because of copyright violation, and I had to sit with lawyers and explain to them the whole matter. And it took more money out of my pocket than I ever earned from publishing comics with that particular publisher. So these are things that will take a huge toll on you, both economically and mentally. But it's also about standing up for the right thing. It's also about making people know that they cannot, just play with an artist's right, and they cannot cross a particular line. And I think that's what I stand for more. And yeah, even though these are artists who do work on the environment who have recently, begun copying my work, and know that it is for a greater and a larger cause. But at the end of the day, I'm an artist, and it is art that I value. And yeah, plagiarism is not something I am impressed with.
I
It's
absolutely
very
agree.
interesting that you bring this up, Rohan, and because as it is, I think in the art community there is a very little awareness going around about what is plagiarism and how to prevent yourself from plagiarizing someone else's work because of lack of awareness, and number two, how to protect yourself. And like you said, independent artists as it is, they do not have the resources to like fight a legal battle all the time.
Right.
So do you have any tips to give to like say new artists, digital artists and everything, about how to protect yourself from getting your rights infringed?
I have actually just entered my lawyer's details on chat. She's somebody,
Awesome.
Manojna Yelluri, and she runs an initiative called Artistic License.
Amazing.
She specializes in intellectual property rights for artists, and even if she's not available to represent you, she will guide you to the necessary resources. So as artists, I think we should all look her up. She's brilliant. She's very thorough.
Thank you
So
so
rare
much,
to
Rohan.
find.
I think this is amazing.
No
Thank you
problem.
so much.
People
Yeah,
just like
this will be
copy
so
this
helpful.
thing and
Exactly.
Yeah, just copy it, take a screenshot, yeah.
Yeah, trace it over, use an
Trace it
iPad,
over.
put a layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just mug it up,
And-
mug up her name 10 times. Yeah.
And Rohan, another, just like it's a very basic question, but like since you've been, so you're someone who has been in this whole legal process of like understanding like your rights and also like suing someone. So can you just summarize in a simple term, like when does a work become a copy, like a plagiarism? Because what happens, what I see often is a lot of young artists like yourself, you said like we learn from other sources, we copy other artworks, other styles and everything, and that is a part of growth.
Absolutely.
But a certain line is crossed when you start putting it on a certain platform and without acknowledging where it's come from. And there is also a very fine difference when the source that you borrowed from is someone very famous, and when people already know that okay, this has come from probably Leonardo da Vinci, then it's a different case. But when it comes from a different source, like a lesser known artist, the ball game entirely changes. So would you like to just like go over that a little bit for the younger artists?
Am I allowed to give a visual example to illustrate this better?
Yeah, sure. I think, do you have the permits to, yeah, you have the permits.
I'll just have to share my screen again, which I will.
Yeah.
So just hold on. I will just open that resource and get back to you in a minute.
Okay, so until then, we'll just answer a few more questions.
Speaking of intellectual property and like laws, while we're at it, I have another.
I'm almost there. I'm almost there. I'll take that question now. Sorry.
Shantanu, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's another law firm called Amir Khan Art Laws. So they also specialize in intellectual properties pertaining to artists and visual artists. So you can look that up also.
Oh, sorry. Gosh, hold on. Current slide. Yeah. So I'd just like to give you an example of inspiration versus copy. So these are some cinematic influences and influence from animation on my work directly. So can you all see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the first set of examples is on the left, you're seeing a scene from this Korean cult classic called Old Boy. And to the right is a scene from my book, Bird Business. This is how a particular action scene in the film has inspired an action scene in my book. The use of those dots from the weapon to the victim, and then the eagle to the snake. And this particular action scene was directed very beautifully. And it's a certain element that I am paying tribute to in my work, having been inspired by this particular art form.
Correct.
Similarly, the influence of Gendy Tartakovsky on my art is very evident if you have read my book. The position of Aku and Samurai Jack, and to the right on the cover of my book, which is an eagle hunting a jungle fowl. And certain elements of how the leaves have been drawn, how the backgrounds have been treated, do pay tribute to Gendy's work. But it is, I would not say that it is a copy, because A, I have acknowledged that I have been influenced by him. I'm paying tribute to his work by combining certain elements of his that have inspired me
Right.
and hybridizing it with my own style.
Right.
When
They incorporated his elements.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, when this would become a copy is when I would copy his proportions, his exact drawing style, not credit him, and commercialize my art.
Basically, it becomes very evident that it is the people get confused कि ये इसका है कि इसका है.
Exactly. वो है और एक है कि अगर आप किसी को कॉपी करके you are publishing with a credible platform, you are calling it your own work without acknowledging the artist, and you are making money out of it. I think that's when that particular artist should be sued.
I think also like Abhishek also mentioned, there's also a lack of awareness, education, lack of awareness of ethics.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because a lot of people, they copy very innocently. Just like, I like this, so I'll copy this and I will go ahead with it. They don't even realize that, it has repercussions, legal repercussions.
Exactly.
And it's not taught in any of the design schools. It's not taught in any of the art colleges, even though like this is a very serious issue and it can make and break, the careers and everything. And like ignorance of law is not exemption from law, right? You cannot say that I didn't know murder was a crime. Right?
Oh, he's dead now.
Now that GAP is a community of artists, I would appeal to you guys to, maybe do some kind of a blog post or some kind of a...
Absolutely.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And it's something which
I would be very happy to contribute to.
Yes,
we'd love that.
This is something which we've been thinking for a really long time. Yeah. But the only issue is it's so hard to come and get hold of someone who's an expert in the field. Someone who can give you like accurate to the point information, because this is a serious thing. You don't want to get secondhand information from someone who's just read another blog post somewhere and is because it's a serious issue. So but I'm really happy that you have been so gracious enough to offer this thing, and also sharing Manojna as I think both of you will be very great people to, because
very
one
helpful.
is the law side of things and one is the creator side of things, because you bring out a different insight as an independent creator. And you've had that growth trajectory also. You understand a lot of the sensibilities as an artist.
I hope I do. I don't know. Thanks.
You do. Rohan, do you have time, or should we wrap?
Yes, I think I can take another five minutes or so.
All right. Should we do the question and answers? We have more questions.
Yes. This is pouring in now. What do you think about signing petitions online? Do they work?
Yes, they work. The EaA is proof. It has only been through petitions that the MOEF has been pushed on the back foot, and they are now under pressure to translate the EaA into several languages and to accept feedback from citizens. So petitions do work. Right.
Copyright issue, that's done. Okay, which animation institute did you learn animation from? I
did not. I'm self-taught.
Oh, awesome. That's the best one.
There's a book called The Animator's Toolkit by Richard Williams.
Yeah.
Which
Survival Kit.
On books by Preston Blair, books by Christopher Hart, all my animation. And of course, while I was learning, I did take a very important tutorial, which was by Sean Cohen. He is the storyboard artist for SpongeBob SquarePants, and he used to do a lot of free online tutorials, and that's how I've learned whatever I know about animation.
Yes, I will hit you up for the links.
How long does it take to draw a comic strip, a daily comic strip?
Wow, anything from 1 day to 1 year, depending on how inspired.
A daily comic strip takes 1 year.
Just to gather information for me. So it has taken, it has been
okay.
my mind, and the whole process has taken me a year. So
okay. That way, correct. Yeah, that's true. That's a very good answer. Yeah.
Rohan, one question: as an artist, you're someone who is very prolific. From when someone goes to an Instagram profile, it looks like you are churning out artworks like on a daily basis. But in reality, the reality is very different, right? So I just wanted to know, what's your process about it? Do you have these spurts of energy, then you finish 10 comics at a go? Or is it
Actually, whatever you see on my social media is mostly stuff that has already appeared in my newspaper columns. I don't do anything exclusive to social media. I don't think I have the bandwidth to take up that kind of work right now. And to be very frank, I do not adapt to the web very well. All my idols have been print media legends. So that's where I try to be. And now that the print media is declining worldwide, I suddenly have no place to go other than my newspaper columns. So I've slowly been trying to use the web for publicity's sake. And, it also gives my work an international readership because newspapers in India are not necessarily accessible to people abroad. So a lot of the international commissions that I have had are because of my web presence. And I think, the better I get at it, the better it would be for my career. But at the same time, it's also important to dissociate yourself with web engagement and concentrate more on productivity.
I think what you're doing on web is amazing. I mean, like the amount of followers you have, the amount of engagement you get. I thought you were like a veteran at web.
I really, if you ask me how many followers I have, I wouldn't know. So I really.
Rohan, I want to ask one question.
So
yeah, how does it feel to have a blue tick? I wanted to know that.
The only difference it will make to your life is give you more trolling. So
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I thought it magically pays your bills and your landlord becomes more nice to you.
Wow. If that would have been the case, I would have, their messages, no, get a blue tick, get verified, pay this much money. I would have signed up for that this long time back.
You know what? I get messages from people saying, gain your followers, and then I go to their page and they have no followers themselves.
Exactly.
I don't know how any of this works.
I'll give you some followers.
I'll give you followers. I don't know any followers of myself. Yeah. So Rohan, thank you so much. We'll wrap this up now, right?
Thanks, Dapoon. Thanks, Shantanu.
Yeah. But Rohan, before we go, I have a request for you.
Yes.
And I heard that heard that you sing.
Oh, God.
So yes. So please sing a few lines.
I don't sing as well as Dapoon, but I'll try.
Oh, too humble you are.
Okay, how about a song about art, right?
Sorry?
This is a song about art from a movie called Dil Chahta Hai, which is very close to my heart, and it's sung by a character who's an artist. So,
Awesome.
It goes. कैसी है ये रुत के जिसमें फूल बनके दिल खिले खुल रहे हैं रंग सारे खुल रही हैं खुशबुएं चांदनी झरने घटाएं गीत बारिश तितलियां हम पे हो गए हैं सब मेहरबान कैसी है ये रुत के जिसमें फूल बनके दिल खिले. That's all. Thanks.
Why did you stop?
Wow.
I love this song. I love it. Your voice.
Wow.
Seriously.
Blown away.
That was amazing.
Yeah, all the people in the comments are like mind blown.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dapoon will do a far better job, so wait for his singing.
Oh,
We want to do it then. Dapoon.
No. And it won't even work, because of the lag in the.
Oh, but that was really amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That was beautiful. Oh my God.
Did you learn it?
That was
Have you
amazing.
learned or like?
No. Again, I'm self-taught. Whatever I know, I've taught myself. So.
Wow, you're the what do you call that? What was that word? I'm not getting that word. You're the face of self-taught.
Oh gosh, no.
Epitome. Yes. Thank you, Rituparna. Yeah. All right then, Rohan. Thank you so much. Then it was so much fun. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rohan, for inspiring us.
This is not something I do on a daily basis. So yeah, this has been a real honor. And thanks for having me on this panel.
Absolutely. And guys,
Thank you so much.
you can go just follow him if you don't know him already, and you can go buy his books. They're on Amazon, and we'll be hearing about his new projects very soon, and we're very excited about that. So, all right then, Rohan.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Thanks
Good
to
night.
everyone who
Thank you
joined.
so much.
More power to you, Rohan.
More power to you.
Thanks, Abhi.
No problem.
See you.
And everyone follow the link and sign the EiA
Oh yes.
petition.
Please do.
Yes.
And join us tomorrow. We have amazing speakers planned for tomorrow. One of Rohan's friends, Rachita, will be joining us. And yeah, have a lovely night ahead. Happy Independence Day to all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
What are your projects?